faculty, family, and friends, the class of 2021. Please rise for the singing of the national anthem by the MERHS Sound Waves.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Pretty good. Welcome families, friends, faculty, and most importantly, the class of 2021 to the 21st Annual Manchester-Essex Regional High School Commencement Ceremony. I'm Craig Maccarelli, I'm the Dean of Students here, and it is my honor to present you today, my pleasure to be here with you today. Our principal, Trisha Puglisi, could not be here. Her daughter's also graduating, she'll be attending her ceremony, but she sends her best wishes and is so proud of all of you graduates. Class of 2021. To say that you have had a unique end to your high school career would be an understatement. 11 and a half years ago, you started school, you were able to attend with friends, be with your teachers, working in groups, eating lunch together, going on field trips, playing sports, performing together, and so many other things. Then, everything came to a screeching halt in March of 2020, right in the middle of your junior year. I could go on and on about the negatives and what was lost during the COVID-19 pandemic, but here today, I'd rather focus on the positives and the strengths you all have shown us in this past year and a half. You've all shown us what it means to be resilient and adaptable and to persevere, some of the most important traits we would hope you'd leave high school with. You rose to the occasion, whether it was attending classes on Zoom, playing sports with masks on, performing virtual art shows or video performances. Whatever it was, you did it, whatever was necessary. You rose to the occasion. One of my favorite sports figures and philosophers of all time, Bruce Lee, would say that you were like water. He once said, empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, like water. If you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. If you put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. If you put it into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. So, class of 2021, continue being like water as you enter the next phase of your lives. Face whatever comes your way and adapt like you've shown us you're so capable of. We're all so proud of you and can't wait to see the amazing things you will do. Congratulations, class of 2021, and again, welcome to all. To present the class address, please welcome the class of 2021 President, Jack Roberts.
Hi, everybody. It's glad to be with you guys tonight. There's a lot of you. Kind of overwhelming, but I think we'll get through this. Thank you, Mr. Maccarelli. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us at the Manchester-Essex class of 2021's graduation ceremony. I'm glad you all could be here. First and foremost, I'd like to thank my mother and brother. I'm not sure where they are. I thought they were going to be in the front, but oh, there they are, right over there. Okay. I wouldn't be here without your unwavering support. Mom, thank you for your patience and guidance, your willingness to be there for me whenever I needed, and your astounding effort to support both Sam and my dreams. You're one of a kind. I love you. And Sam, thank you for pushing me to be a better person and putting up with my annoying self these last 15 and a half years. Next, I'd like to thank the community, not only with pleasantries, but gifts that the class officers and I felt would be fitting. The class of 2021 will be donating $2,500 to the Open Door Food Pantry in Gloucester and another $1,500 to the junior class. We hope that these donations can make up for lost time for a difficult year that made it difficult to raise funds. To the administration, who bring cohesion to the chaos of education, to the guidance department, you are the backbone of the school community, spreading joy wherever you go. To Mr. Edgett and Steve, I think you're somewhere over there. I saw Steve, I think, there you are. You stared down COVID fearlessly and gave us the opportunity to play sports, and that meant a lot to us. I know it did. To those parents and their children who gave me rides when my mom was working, I'm forever grateful for your extension of kindness. Finally, to the teachers. Some of my favorite are right over there. You are wizards and witches of paper and pen, philosophers of all that is good and evil. You are some of the most selfless people I've ever met. A few of you made my experience extra special. Mr. Milady, look at the guy. Amazing man. Always putting a smile on my face as I walked through the first floor. And Mr. Boyce, for guiding me through as much history as I could possibly absorb. I don't know how many classes I took with you. 4, 5? Something like that, yeah. And writing countless letters of recommendation. I'm forever grateful. And Coach Billsbury, I'm not sure if you're here, but I learned more about sportsmanship and teamwork with you than anyone else. And to all my classmates, thank you for an incredible time and the memories we now share. Despite the events over the most recent year, we've made giant leaps for mankind. The challenges of COVID have pushed us to be the best versions of ourselves, socially, academically, mentally, because that's what we do in a crisis. We become better people. Over the last 7 years, I've grown with all of you. We've begun to develop into our own identities, breaking away from our parents and into a world of our own making. It's hard moving on and moving up. A certain sadness, rooted in nostalgia, accompanies the joy of adulthood. Moving on from Pokemon and Beyblades, Shrek and Toy Story is difficult, but it brings new opportunities. Our teachers, coaches, mentors, and families have watched us become our own people, and hopefully learning how to rely on them less, although I do like it when my meals and laundry are done for me. As we move into adulthood, I'd like to take a moment to talk about how we can become better people for ourselves and those around us. I want to touch on decision-making and how we can become the best, truest versions of ourselves as we venture into this new chapter of our collective set of stories, each with their own challenges and characters awaiting us. Although I am only 18, I hope I can offer some wisdom as we push forward. Remember the incredible prom we had the other night? Remember Carter crowd surfing? Carter, where are you? That was incredible. Love you, buddy. The class officers and I, well, we had a hard time with getting Castle Hill, and we were told it was too risky due to COVID and frankly above our pay grade. However, with the support of Miss Musco, where are you? I don't know, but thank you so much. The Mayer family, and lots of hard work from Eden, Emma, and Emerson. We pulled off a prom venue typically reserved for only the most elaborate of events, and the rest is history. Adults offer us their experience as a reflection of the past, valuable lessons that must be listened to as advice rather than gospel. The best decisions we make are those that come from within, the feeling in our gut that we must follow. To make a choice based on your own feelings or beliefs is the ultimate risk, because you cannot rely on anyone but yourself. And that takes some getting used to, but it offers the best rewards. Many of you today have made choices in your life that are leading you to college, the Marines, or whatever you plan to chase after high school. Just know this: if you do not believe in what you are doing, if it is not truly yours, I encourage you to examine yourself and to find that which you do believe in. It'll take some time, but you'll know when you do, or so I've been told. Some people won't like the choices you make. Some may feel unpopular, but since we're done with high school, popularity is now a trivial concern. We must be confident in the wisdom bestowed upon us over these last several years by those teachers, mentors, coaches, and we have to stay true to the people who raised us to follow our hearts and our minds with such conviction. I'll leave you with a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. Whatever course you decide upon, there's always someone to tell you that you are wrong. There are always difficulties arising which tempt you to believe that your critics are right. To map out a course of action and to follow it to an end requires courage. Thank you, everybody.
Excellent job, Jack. Thank you. Next, please welcome Alexander Rosen to give the salutatorian address.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Macarelli, for that introduction. I'd like to start off by thanking all the family and friends who have supported us through the years. Thank you for coming out today, and for Ms. Biglisi for helping make all this happen despite our absence. I'd also like to thank our teachers for the past 4 years. I know how hard everyone has worked entirely for our benefit, and the evidence of their labor ranges from Miss Humility taking on an extra AP Bio class to an email about an assignment I received from Mr. Brown at 3:34 a.m. You have all been an inspiration to me, and I'm sure many others here. So congratulations, everyone. Graduating high school is a pretty cool moment. But on this day of achievement, it's hard to think that we're still fairly clueless, which is amazing considering the incredible amount of information that we've learned over the last 4 years. The reality is that we've barely scratched the surface of knowledge. And in this moment, we are expected to look into our futures and envision a rough idea of what our lives will look like. I don't know about all of you, but I'm entirely lost when I think about what to eat for lunch, let alone what to do with my life. There was one important thing that we learned in high school, and that is confusion can often be rectified by simply asking a question. So as we start to think about not only what our next 4 years will look like, but our entire lives, I have some questions that I think everyone should just keep in the back of their minds and ponder as we make choices. Existentialists taught that the meaning of life is defined by living authentically and in line with one's essence. That is, making choices that are true to oneself. We can determine if we are living in line with our essence through the personal enjoyment that comes with those choices. But in a world of ever-mounting problems and crises, I wonder if that line of thinking is a luxury that we can no longer afford. So, how do we balance our personal enjoyment with our responsibility to humanity and our communities? Do we do what we don't necessarily want to do, but what needs to be done? Or is the burden of this responsibility simply too heavy? By now, many of us have developed a value system that is probably based on an idyllic version of a better world, without hate, despair, or suffering. Even if you think those ideals are a fantasy, most people would agree that they are still the ideals. What I wonder is if it's even possible to achieve happiness and stability without giving up those values. And should we be okay with that fact, that it might be impossible? Or should we truly strive to live life virtuously? And if we do decide to live life virtuously, how much should we sacrifice in pursuit of creating a world centered around those values? These are just my existential shower thoughts. I don't have the answer, and it probably will differ for each of you. My hope is that you're able to strike the balance between personal stability and happiness and ensuring your existence has a net positive impact on the world. Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you, Alexander. It's now my pleasure to introduce the valedictorian of the class of 2021, Emerson Kale.
Thanks, Mr. Beck. All right, thank you, everybody, for coming out. Oh, got that stuck in my mouth. Okay. Before I begin, I want to give an enormous thank you to all of those who have helped us reach this point in our lives. To the entire administration here at our MERHS, thank you for working around the clock to ensure that our school always runs smoothly, even in the middle of a pandemic. Throughout the past 4 years, you have consistently taken student opinion into consideration when making impactful decisions, which has helped all of us feel like bigger contributors to the community. To everybody working in guidance, thank you so much for supporting all of us students at every step along the way, from middle school graduation to high school graduation. The level of care towards each student demonstrated by the guidance department every day is impressive and undoubtedly greatly appreciated by all members of the student body. Of course, there are two groups of people sitting here today who deserve the most thanks of all. Firstly, to the parents. Thank you for raising such an exciting, passionate, and kind group of young people. Parents have an immense impact on the development of their children, as I'm sure you're all aware. So the admirable attributes displayed by the members of this class are truly a testament to your hard work and dedication in one of the most difficult jobs in the world. Looking out at the sea of faces who have already accomplished so much, you should all be very proud of the young adults you have raised. And finally, to the teachers. Thank you all so much for dedicating your lives to the intellectual growth of us students. Throughout my 17 years of life, some of the most compassionate, kind, and motivated people I've ever met work here in this school, and we all have had the privilege of learning from them. The difference between what we know now and what we knew 4 years ago is astounding, and so much of the credit for that growth goes to all of our incredible teachers. Please know that your hard work has been noticed and appreciated, and I hope that us graduating and moving on to the next stage of our lives grants you the fulfillment of a job well done, because you deserve it. Now, with all that being said, let's get into it. I believe that time is the most precious resource available to humanity. Unlike all other resources, there is nothing you can do to buy or otherwise obtain more time for yourself. And furthermore, with each passing second, the time we have left on Earth decreases. And for this reason, I believe it is of the utmost importance to make the most of every single second we have on this planet. Now, high school graduation marks a key transition between the two major stages and sections of time of our lives, the stage as a child and the stage as an adult. As children, we have little freedom and little responsibility, but as adults, our freedom grows drastically, dragging with it our responsibility. As we wrap up high school, graduate, and prepare to enter the next stage of our the adult stage of our lives, our time in this preliminary child stage rapidly comes to an end. Now, this is pretty bittersweet, at least for me, because many of us have known each other for basically our entire lives, right? We went to preschool together, we went to elementary school together, we went to middle school together, and we're now graduating high school together. I mean, I've known Alex since we were 2 years old, 1 year old, I don't know. So it's crazy. And many of us have also only known each other for a year or a few years, depending on when you joined the system. But either way, we all have this permanent connection based on where we've lived and learned as children. Nobody new will ever join the MERHS class of 2021, and nobody here today will ever leave the MERHS class of 2021. Unfortunately, in recent years, our class as a whole has not been able to spend too much time together. We all have our own groups, but the pandemic prevented us from banding together as one united high school community during much of our junior and senior years. There is nothing we can do to turn back the clocks and get back the time that we lost due to COVID. However, we can still utilize the little time we have left to strengthen the connections between the people we have known since we were little kids. In a few months, we will all be dispersed around the country and the world, starting our studies, our trades, or our service. Instead of all living in close proximity, like many of us have for our entire lives, we will be separated by thousands of miles. And after today, as sad as it is to say, there is no guarantee that all members of our class will ever be gathered together again like we are right now. So we must take advantage of the roughly 100 days we have left together. Let's pack a year and a half of events into the next 3 months and build the connections that the pandemic severed or stagnated. Even in just the past few weeks, I have seen more interaction, crazy memories, and fun times with all members of the class than I had in the year and a half before that. Some fun times that Jack McFadden knows a little too much about. Let's keep that trend going and cherish the time that we have left together before it all runs out. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your view of life, this time will inevitably run out. Very soon, we'll have to start caring for ourselves and cleaning up our own messes. Once we start it, we'll have plenty of time in the adult stage of life, but that does not in any way diminish the importance of taking advantage of that time. In my opinion, the best way that we can utilize the adult stage of our lives is by maximizing the proportion of the time that we spend happy and fulfilled. because in my opinion, your resume means very little if nothing on it brings you fulfillment. This firmly held belief of mine leads me to the main piece of advice I have for everybody in our class, including myself. When you get to the real world and you have to start caring for yourself, invest the necessary time to figure out who you truly are and what you truly want to do with your life. Don't search for who society wants you to be or what those around you want you to do. Search for that which will make you happy, fulfilled, and dignified. Spontaneity can be fun and exciting, but spontaneity that completely lacks direction will never provide true internal happiness. We will never become who we want to become or do what we want to do if we do not know who we want to become or what we want to do in the first place. Of course, finding the life that will grant you the internal satisfaction necessary to not be perturbed by the daily inconveniences is no easy task. Some of you have probably already figured out what you want to do, but others, myself included, have no clue what specifically will bring long-term dignity and fulfillment for ourselves. For some of us, a few hours of honest reflection might lead to a personal revelation, but for others, it might take months, years, or even decades. However, all time spent on such personal reflection can never be considered a waste, as it will inevitably bring you closer to finding your internal harmony, which in my eyes is the closest thing to some sort of objective meaning to life. Thus, while I do not advise exiting the ceremony and spending the next 20 years in a constant catatonic state of reflective thought, spend some time here or there thinking about who you are and what you really want to be doing 10, 20, 30, or 40 years down the line. Maybe start with what you think you want to do. Maybe start with what you know you don't want to do. Maybe start somewhere in the middle. But either way, take the time to figure out who you are, as you can never help yourself be happy if you don't even know who you're helping. Time is precious, and even the seemingly expansive time of our adult stage of life is not infinite, so we must make the most of it. As kids, we must use the limited time we have left to strengthen, rekindle, or construct connections with each other that we might never have the opportunity to strengthen, rekindle, or construct in the future. And as adults, we must invest time in ourselves so that we can find what will truly provide us with lifelong happiness, fulfillment, and dignity. I am very proud to share with you all a spot in MERHS's class of 2021, and I will never forget all the memories we have forged together. So thank you all, and once again, congratulations.
Thank you, Emerson, Jack, and Alexander. Those were amazing. Moving on, as voted on by the class of 2021, please welcome Mr. John Milady for the faculty address.
Hi, everybody. Jack Roberts, thank you for the compliment, but I think as a lot of you can see, this is what happens when you want to look like Ted Lasso, but you have the body and the build of Pablo Escobar, so just wanted to put that out there. As I was preparing for this talk, I started to look through some of the quote books that I have in my classroom. And I started keeping these my first year of teaching, and they're often used for inspiration, for reflection, and honestly just amusement. And then I came across this gem from October 29th, 2018, when I overheard a student giving advice to a fellow classmate. And she said, "Just don't be yourself, and you will be fine." G.G. Hewitt. So that inspiring quote made me look for some more words of wisdom from the class of 2021. And honestly, there's way too many, but I'll save that for a YouTube account. So I thought what I would do would play a little game with the valedictorian and the salutatorian. So you boys, I'm going to read you a quote, and you're going to guess which classmate said it. Okay? First quote, to give you the background, I walk into the classroom, a student, unsolicited, looked into my eyes and said, "Do I spoil you?" Who said that? Jack Roberts, Jack Shaw, Eli, or Ethan? That's Jack Shaw. In U-Block, a student was working on an assignment that Miss Tran assigned, and out of frustration, I hear, "Didn't Columbus get the snakes out of Ireland?" Was that Anna Coyne, Trip Graves, Jay Craigs, or Cooper O'Brien? You're right, Anna Phyllis Coyne. Excellent job. Also from that U-Block was amazing. This was also said in U-Block. "Yeah, like the time I saw Hannah Montana swinging from a wrecking ball, my childhood was shattered." Who said that? Madison Lawler, Avery Licka, Tess Richard, or Lilia Thanis? That was Mad Dog. Excellent. Who whined, I can't eat bacon because when I do, I choke? Eva Parker, Fotini, Ella Ritchie, or Jennifer O'Neill? That is Fotini. How? This kid walked into my room and said, call me Mike Tyson. Who said that? Eli, Will Rodier, Dee Dee Rodier, or Cosima? Watch out, it was Cosima. This was also that amazing U-Block where blurted out, wait, did Juliet just die? Legitimately surprised that Juliet doesn't make it to the end. Spoiler alert, Romeo doesn't either. Was this Lily Bennett, Charlotte Ward, Lydia Shaw, or, and I promise Trip I say this, Hanky to Horsey, Henry Richard? Say it again? That was Lydia Shaw. Making the family proud, Lydia. Okay. This one, it's questionable. Who referred to a member of your class as, quote, an ethnic smoothie of the Axis powers? We know who we were talking about, but who's the author of that? Was that Lars, Mason, Connor, or Ethan? It was definitely Ethan. Excellent job. Who, unsolicited, just goes, I'm never in the quote book? Was that Sophia, Max, Nicole, or Faith? It was Faith, yeah. But you made it, Faith, and you made it at the speech. There you go. This is one of my favorite ones. This was an actual email. Dear Mr. Milady, hi. I've been in the hospital since last night, and I have to stay again tonight. I hurt my neck during a game, and they just want to make sure everything is all right. Would I be able to get an extension on that first double journal entry? I just don't have any of my school supplies, and I can't do any work here. Who would email from the hospital about an elective that I teach? Michael Quill, Tommy Bowen, Frank Wood, or Will Lev? Say it again? You thought Will Lev? It was Frank. Frank, in the words of Danny, Frank loves school. Okay. I have one other announcement, and I'm going to need your help with this. Me? Yes. All right. Okay. So since 1999, this is the bonus question. Since 1999, what family has had a student in the district? Roadiers assemble. This is on you. Okay. It's the end of an era. It is the end of an era. So the last two should stand up. Last two stand up. Legends. Okay. So I actually have a special connection with this class. Now, back when you were freshmen, I taught 3 sections of CP World and 1 section of honors. And I must have done such a tremendous job with my honors class. I have not been asked to teach an honors class since. Because you can't replicate perfection. So it was in that amazing honors class that I got a text message that would change my life forever. My wife Liz sent a text from MGH that the doctors needed to perform an emergency C-section, and I had to get to Boston immediately. And at this point, we were in school for less than a month, and I didn't really know my class that well. And poor Olivia Osterman was mid-presentation, and I think I stammered, "Shut up!" And then I just walked away. The greatest Irish exit of all time. So at some point during my daughter's birthday, and Mary's here, by the way, because she is connected to this class. At some point during Mary's birthday, I always think of you guys, and I always will. And we also have another connection that's pretty unique. I graduated high school 20 years ago today. And this connection, I know I look good, this connection made me think of the world that I knew as a 12th grader. And over the course of 4 years, how so much of life can change. Like me, the world that you knew during your freshman year is gone. It's replaced by a more uncertain and intimidating one. And what was once the source of worry and fear 4 years ago may seem at this point pretty trivial and insignificant. But for the most part, the 12th grade version of me had lived a pretty sheltered life, and I feel very fortunate for that. As Alex Rilliard once said, high school was not musical. It wasn't that bad, but it definitely wasn't musical. There was no trauma. I experienced the highs and the lows of adolescence. I knew what it was like to feel lonely and anxious, but also to feel the glow of being the center of attention and to be loved. In some classes I coasted, in others I struggled, and to put it very bluntly, there was really nothing remarkable about me. I was painfully and blissfully average. Unlike some of you today, there are some truly remarkable people graduating here today. We have incredible athletes, amazing artists, crypto connoisseurs. I don't know what that means, but something about GameStop. Brooklyn was trying to explain it to me. And we also have some future members of our armed forces. So I think you gentlemen need to stand right now so we can be recognized. So please stand up. Thank you very much. And there are also some of you graduating today, actually many of you, that you really, truly know the meaning of loss. At this point in your life, you have already endured more pain, more heartache, and suffering than some people twice your age. And I'm looking at you now, and I just don't know how you did it. I'm truly in awe of your resilience and your courage. And at your age, you have more grit and more endurance than most adults. And there's no metric for this in our society, but I think it's worthwhile to give you guys praise and acknowledgement. We don't often talk about our grief, and especially the grief of others, probably because it makes some of us uncomfortable, but we should. We should acknowledge the loss, and more importantly, recognize that our friends, our colleagues, our students, and our neighbors have suffered. And I wanted to recognize your loss and say to you, and I really mean this, that you're sitting here today graduating high school, stronger than I ever could have been, and stronger than most of us ever could have been. And going back to that bright June afternoon at St. Anthony's High School, there's probably close to 2,500 people at graduation. The weather was gorgeous. There was still the smell of incense from Mass that we had. The Suffolk County Police Department Emerald Society stood outside with their bagpipes and their drums resting around the fence of the track. It had this little Hogwarts vibe. We had clergy in robes sitting around the bishop. And the speeches given that afternoon were pretty typical of what you would expect from a Catholic school at that time. The bishop talked to us about Mike Piazza from the New York Mets. He carried his grandfather's rosary beads in his pocket on game day, and that was his reminder to keep his faith. Our priest, Father Brian, warned us that society was going to challenge us and that our values would serve as a guide after we left. And our principal, Brother Shane, spoke to us about the bright future ahead and the sense of optimism and what was in store for us. And I sat there and I listened. No cell phone to distract me, just lost in my own thoughts. My classmates were future D1 athletes, soon to be Ivy Leaguers, cadets at several military academies. And we were the sons and daughters of cops, of firemen, of nurses, immigrants, doctors, investment bankers, and people from all walks of life. One thing, though, that we all had in common: none of us were prepared for the generation-defining moment that was going to slam upon us within a couple of weeks that September. June of 2001 was a different era, one that has gone forever. Looking back, the advice that was given to us during that ceremony reflected the values of that unique moment in time. And that summer of 2001 is forever frozen in my memory. That's the summer for me, before everything changed. Those are my first before times, and a reference point and a touchstone for many of the adults that are here today. So what I'm going to do for you guys is give you 3 lessons that I wish somebody could have told me when I was 17. My first piece of advice comes from West Africa. It's a word that I just recently discovered, but I love the meaning. And the word is Sankofa. It means that it's not taboo to go back and fetch what you forgot. Sankofa is expressed as a mythic bird. It flies forward, but it's looking backwards with an egg in its mouth, and the egg represents the future. Because in life, sometimes you need to go back to your roots in order to move forward. And at some point in your life, you're going to find out that you lost a little bit of who you were. A small piece of your identity is gone. And you may have sacrificed it to fit into a certain peer group or to make yourself more appealing to another person, and we all do it. But don't change who you are because of other people. Embrace what you like. If you keep adapting or modifying who you are, you're going to end up very unhappy. There will come a time where you're going to need to reclaim a small piece of your identity back. So please do it. It's never too late to recover who you are. Listen to that song you liked in middle school, Who Cares If It Makes People Cringe? Remember who you are, but most importantly, love yourself for it. Love your quirks, love your faults, and love yourself. Because if you don't love yourself, how can you ever be able to love one another? My second piece of advice is to celebrate the ordinary. I am never going to look at grocery shopping the same way again. The thrill of finding 2-ply toilet paper, I'm going to be chasing that high for the rest of my life. And I hope that I always remember that feeling of pure uncertainty and fear that a simple task like going to the store was. Because for me, I realized it was the ordinary that I missed the most last year. So much of life can seem like a web of randomly connected tasks and chores, and when you could not do them, you realize how much you had taken them for granted. And this year, this September, when I came into the building, I was legitimately ecstatic making a photocopy. And I got like borderline giddy handing out homework, so much so that my C block class actually mocked me and said, "Do you want us to take a picture?" And I was like, kind of, like, this is a big deal. It was you. And it was not just the ordinary tasks that I took for granted. I also took for granted ordinary people. And it was the ordinary people who did extraordinary things during the pandemic that gave me hope. Now, my mom, Jean's a nurse. She would actually be here right now, but she has her own graduation ceremony that she tried to guilt trip me in for not making it. But I'm giving the speech, Jean. But congratulations. After 30 years of work in the ambulatory unit, my mom suddenly found herself assigned to the COVID floor at the hospital she worked at. And she was working 12-hour shifts overnight, something that she had not done since the Reagan administration. She told me several times. During each shift, she found the time to give frequent updates to the families of her patients. She took the time to speak to the husbands, the mothers, the wives, and the partners of COVID patients. Because my mom understood the power and the meaning behind those conversations, and she wanted to let the families know that their loved ones were not alone. And if it wasn't for my mom, some families would have not gotten an update more than once in a 24-hour span. She went above and beyond what she needed to do. She had the tough conversations when no one else could. My mom did the extraordinary. One of her coworkers, 37 years old, mother of 4, this woman would volunteer to sit in a patient's room and hold their hand so they wouldn't be isolated. This woman did this without proper PPE, putting her own well-being aside, because this woman, this ordinary woman, did the extraordinary. She was often the last human contact, the last example of kindness and love that some people would have. And these are just two examples of millions of ordinary people who did extraordinary things. I learned from last year that the ordinary, it can be beautiful, it can be inspiring, and it's often what we miss most and what we need most to get through these difficult days. At any given point, some of you are going to be the smartest person in the room, or you're going to be the best looking, and some of you are going to be the wealthiest person in the room. And some of these factors are beyond your control. So this brings me to my final bit of advice. Strive to be the most grateful person in the room. If you do that, you will have a different type of success. One way to do this is to view your burdens as blessings. It's not an easy or natural thing to do, but with practice, it can change your entire mindset. At some point last spring, I was feeling completely overwhelmed with my job and with childcare. And as a father and as a teacher, there's nothing worse than feeling inadequate and angry at yourself. I wasn't there for my kids, my actual kids, and I felt like I wasn't there for my students. And in the midst of all this personal chaos and confusion, I found the time to reflect on what I really was struggling about. We all were healthy, and I was not alone. Believe me, there are times I wish I was, but we did eventually fix the lock in the bathroom. I was employed, my wife's job was secure, And I had amazing and supportive and loving coworkers that got me through some of the darkest days. I had thoughtful and kind neighbors, and I had students who out of the blue would just send us an email. I mean, they would skip the Google Hangout, but at least they would check in with an email. And after reflecting, my self-pity was replaced by a new sense that I realized I'm really one of the lucky ones. At a time when there was so much suffering and uncertainty out there, I knew that there were many people who would gladly take my burden, my crazy house, my loud children, the iPad that will never turn off. That burden would be someone else's blessing. And for some of you next year, there's going to be the burden of an 8 o'clock class, or a due date that's crept up on you, or the dilemma of where to sit in a new and larger cafeteria, or possibly not going out on a Friday because you have an early practice on Saturday morning. And I'm telling you right now, there are people who would give their right arm to have those types of burdens. Those are truly wonderful blessings to have. And then for others, next year is one giant unknown. Questions remain about what the plan is or what you're going to do with your life. And that sense of freedom and uncertainty might seem a little overwhelming. But there are many people who would love to have that sense of freedom, who would love to not feel boxed in, and they would love to have those options. So try to embrace them. If considering your burdens to be blessings seems too hard or too abstract, consider the advice of author and World War II veteran Kurt Vonnegut. Vonnegut said, "When things are going sweetly and peacefully, please pause a moment and then say out loud, 'If this isn't nice, what is?'" Try that every day. See how it goes. So I like to end my talk with the version of an activity that I would normally start my class with. I want you guys to think about 3 people you are thankful for. It could be a teacher that made you feel confident in a class that you were struggling in. It could be a family member you haven't seen in a long time, or a friend that's been there for you always. Now turn to the person next to you and tell them who are you thankful for today. Now. Now, if that isn't nice, what is? Remember, you are loved. Always get home safe. Good night. Thank you.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you, Mr. Belady. So now, to present the class, please welcome Superintendent of Schools, Pamela Baldwin.
Good evening, everyone. Class of 2021, your adventurous and adaptable spirit allowed you to meet the challenges of completing your high school years amid a pandemic. Through it all, you managed to make the best of things by maintaining cohesiveness and class spirit. Over the course of your academic careers, you have made MERSD proud with your many artistic, musical, charitable, environmental, civic, and athletic accomplishments. But above all, we are proud of the way you've conducted yourselves in times of challenge. You are an innovative and resilient group of young men and women. The post-COVID world awaits you, and I have no doubt that the class of 2021 will make its mark on the world. Faculty, friends, family, and community members, it is my pleasure and my honor to present to you the Manchester-Essex class of 2021 for the conferring of their high school diplomas.
Emerson Parker Kale. Alexander James Rosen. Jack Alexander Roberts. Eden Margaret Mayer. Emma Frances Francoeur. Heather Michelle Adams. Rachel Mary Albertasi. Lily Campbell Athanas. Sophia Gomez Barrett. Lily Carolyn Bennett. Lars Murphy Birkland. Thomas Edmund Bowen. Peter John Brucker. Audrey Robbins Brogna. Bradley Rose Brooks. Leilani Elizabeth Brown. Dylan Reese Burbridge. Faith Marcellet Burrows. Halen James Cattle. Finian Thomas Carlson. Maxine Gan Carrera. Kendall Lorraine Cavallo. Antonia Katrina Chicola. Ryan Thomas Clark. Michael Nathaniel Colbert. Kyle Cole Condi. Abigail Marie Conway. Lily Elizabeth Coote. Philippa Audrey Cox Stavros. Anna Phyllis Coyne. Julia Andrews Cragen. Carter James Appleton Crocker. Ryan Jeffrey Crompton. Joseph Troy Daly. Kayla Marie DeCavallo. Greta Sophia Dixon. Faye Shangmei Dingle. Isabella Donnell DiPasquale. Tess Sonia Eichenberger. Tyler Higgins Erdman. Ashley Marie Flood. Emily Rose Fossa. Alexander Charles First. Maria Anna Gargano. Daniel Eliezer Garrett Metz. Ronald Charles Gendron. Bonnie Priestley Gerhardt. Gavin Christopher Glass. Weston Osborne Graves III. Dylan James Gregory. Eli Jack Hammett. Augustus Hawk Hamer. Dasha Alexandra Haze. Elias Lukanchek Henyu. Tyler Thomas Huber. Gianna Marie Hewitt. Althea Catherine Hurd. Tatum Ryan Job. Griffin James Kempsky. Samuel Richard Kenny. William Henry Kenny. Madeline Jane Lai. Amelia Lano. Nicole Michelle Lapointe. William James Larson. Madison Catherine Lawler. Amelia May Lee. William Sargent Lewandowski. Isabella Grace Lilly. Avery Catherine Litka. Grayson DeCamp Lockwood. Elizabeth Prouty Loring. Cosima Elizabeth Alexandria Masillan. John Watkins McFadden. Connor Patrick McGrath. Jesse O'Halloran Miller. Joachim Henrik Mittermeier. Molly Stratton Moore. John Anthony Morgan. Cooper Ford O'Brien. Mason Driscoll O'Grady. Noah Broderick O'Grady. Ethan Quinn O'Hara. Sylvie Elizabeth Oldman. Liam Christopher Oliver. Ryan Patrick Olivier Meehan. Jennifer Ann Marie O'Neill. Sean Patrick O'Neill. Olivia Rose Osterman. Fotini Yana Parianos. Eva Marie Parker. Logan Michael Patrick. Sean Timothy Phelan. Stephanie Devereaux Pratt. Michael J. Quill. Olivia Catherine Renzi. Ella Audrey Ritchie. Samuel Cooper Rice. Henry Michael Richard. Tess Hammersley Richard. Diane Patricia Rodier. William Michael Rodier. Alexandra Rose Rouillard. Emily B. Shue. John Francis Shaw. Lydia Hope Shaw. Nora Margaret Smith. Mary Dana Steach. Grace Gilroy Swansiger. Abigail Constance Thomas. Annika Caroline Rose Thompson. Oliver Wren Tolo. Jonah William Tomiolo. Olivia Meredith Turner. Luis Santos Vala. Joseph Jan Vitopel. Charlotte Grassy Ward. Maxwell David Warnock. James T. Wendell. Anna Eleanor Witten. Eliza Hatfield Wilson. Franklin Daniel Wood. Eliza Joan Woodward. Matthew Jeffrey Jakubowskis.
Okay.
That was planned. Ladies and gentlemen, the class of 2021. Emerson, will you please lead the class in the turning of the tassels? It's awesome. Thank you for attending, and congratulations again, class of 2021.